Hello, everyone. We are super excited today. It is a beautiful day here. We have a gentleman that is from the Midwest in Milwaukee, and
Hello, hello.
he goes by the name of Tufong Lee. He is a shaman. We had a gentleman that was a priest, and we like to have a well-rounded group of men, whether we accept all sorts of religious background to have a healthy conversation. And today is with a shaman today, and I can't thank you enough. So welcome, Tufong.
Thank you for having me on the show, on the podcast. Yeah.
Awesome, man. You're from Milwaukee too.
Yes, I'm from Milwaukee. Originally, I'm from Sheboygan, but I moved here when I started college, and then I've just stayed here ever since.
What are you going to school for?
I graduated from University of Milwaukee with my psychology degree. Yeah, and then I did a little bit of graduate school, but I took a break from that. So
Are you employed right now too, or?
right now, recently I just opened up my business, so I'm doing that. I also work with the city of Milwaukee, so I'm just kind of working right now and trying to step back from school a little bit, and maybe in a few years I'll go back to school.
You
Yeah,
just opened up a tailor shop, am I correct?
yeah, I did. I opened up a tailoring shop about a year ago. We've been here since February of 2019, right downtown of Menominee Falls. And we basically just tailor clothes. We also customize clothes for people who are transgender, people who are gender neutral. So we kind of do a little bit of everything here.
Cool. You guys keeping busy during this pandemic, or having a little trouble here?
You know what? When it was March, around that time, we had to shut down for about a month and a half. But after that, we've been pretty busy. I guess this time has allowed people to go through their clothes and take it in, I guess. Yeah. So we've been pretty busy.
A good problem to have.
Yeah, right.
Good. It's a good problem to have then. You identify as a shaman, and we want to get more deeper into that too. Is your parents obviously shaman too, or was it yourself?
Yeah, so we grew up, well, I grew up in a shamanism household. So my parents are, they obviously believe in the religion, but it was never really anything that was practiced a lot, or they never really spoke about it. We never really hoopli or neng or anything like that ever until I became a shaman. So yeah, I really didn't know much about it either.
Yeah, we stumble across you through social media. We stumbled across you through social media, and we were just like, oh man, I got to reach out to this guy. You're a pretty interesting fella, and wanted to get to know you. So thank you so much again for coming on.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you for having me and for reaching out. And I'm glad you came upon the blog. So
yeah, that's awesome. So we'll talk about more about that too. Now, how many years have you been practicing shaman?
I've been, well, I guess that's a two-part question. So I've been officially practicing for about I think 5 years now. Yeah, I think 5 years now. But the journey of it has been since I was 5 or 6 years old. So it's been a long journey.
Did you know that already, or did you kind of
No,
slowly?
yeah, no, no one knew. I didn't even know. It wasn't until I started that, looking back, things kind of made sense. And things kind of fell into place of, why was I 5 years old, but, experiencing these shaman symptoms. Yeah.
Such as?
So, it shaman sickness for me, we call it monang. When I was 5 to 6 years old is when it started. Things like night terrors, nightmares, sleep paralysis, um, just all of that. Things that are supernatural, paranormal activity, I guess, has been happening since I was 5, 6 years old.
You don't have a sixth sense of hearing things and seeing things, do you?
No, not that, but I guess it's different for every shaman. So some shamans they might have that, but for me, it's more of like I could sense the energy in the room, sense energy in someone. Yeah. Hmm.
Have you ever had an experience where you're just, you know, your hair just raise up?
Oh yeah, yeah, all the time.
Please do tell at least like one or two if you.
Yeah. So let's see. I don't even know where to begin. There's so many. Let's see. I guess I'm just gonna generalize it. So I guess as a shaman, when you enter someone's house, right? Um, it could just be like a relative's house, and you're there because they're hanging out or something, and you can kind of sense already that there's something kind of going on in their house, or maybe there's something going on with them, or with their parent, or with another sibling. You can kind of sense like a dark kind of energy. It's a very powerful energy, and you really, I guess for me, I really have to control myself in the situations because you can lose control of yourself and then you can go into a trance. And these things are just random, it just happens randomly. So whenever I can kind of feel when that's happening, and then I just have to remove myself from the situation.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's one time when since we're talking about stories, there was one time when I had just started my my shaman journey, and um, it was late at night, and at that time I only had my small altar. So I was sleeping in the living room at my parents' house, and I had that small altar, and there was like one light on in the living room, and then I kept hearing something moving under my shaman altar. And I had my bags with the joss and my candles down there, and I kept hearing something rattling, and I thought that maybe it was a mouse or something. But I like slowly looked, and I saw this kind of like black figure person, lady person, kind of crawling from underneath the table, and then it crawled slowly, and then it just turned into the corner into the kitchen. So after that, I was freaking scared, so I just ran upstairs and slept with my siblings.
Dude,
Yeah,
you're giving me goosebumps just like saying that.
yeah, yeah. And then there was another time too.
Yeah.
Um, I was I had just started my journey too. So in the beginning, when shamans start, they have to practice practice going to the trance. And I had just started. I got on the bench, and something was just like holding my feet down, preventing me from shaking, preventing me from going to a trance, preventing me from like stomping when I need to. Um, yeah, so that happened for like a few, like 10 minutes into the ritual.
Something just on your feet. It feels
Yeah,
heavy.
something was holding on my feet. I felt a lot of like my bench, it felt really, really crowded, as if there were like 10 people on the bench with me.
Yikes.
Yeah.
With that being said, what point did you decide to fully practice it?
Yep. So I started fully 5 years ago, when I was like a sophomore or junior in college. And I guess the symptoms just have progressed to the point where it was like my last resort, pretty much.
I
Yes.
see.
Yeah. So that's when I decided to just, you know what, I have nothing to lose.
I'm assuming because of the experience and what you're seeing and sleep paralysis and
Yeah, all of that since I was like 5. And it was just to that moment where I kind of just couldn't take it anymore, pretty much. And we've like tried so many things already. And mhm.
see. Was your first journey into the shaman world like
Um, it's not what everyone says, at least for me. You know, people always ask me like, what do you see when you're like in a trance or when you have that veil over your head? And like 95% of the time, you don't really see anything. It's just pitch black. Um, and so my first time, I didn't really have any expectations for how it was going to be. It just felt like my whole body was on fire pretty much. And then you kind of have to let yourself go, and um, you can feel your body shaking, you can feel your body vibrating. Your hands and your feet start to clench up, your eyes start to clench. And then you kind of slowly start shaking, and then you just kind of like let go completely. Um, that's pretty much what my first time was like. Yeah, I had no idea what to expect.
Mm, I bet it's
Mhm.
one heck of experience.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience I'll never forget. It's a feeling that I'll never forget too.
How, you identify as a gay man, am I correct?
I do. Yep.
How does your family take the news when you broke the news to them about your sexuality?
Yeah. So I came out a long time ago. I came out in 2012 when I graduated high school, and it was at first it was challenging. You know, it was challenging. Things didn't feel normal. The relationships that I had with my parents just didn't feel like what it was. What it used to be. Um, it wasn't until like a year later when things started to become normal again, and families realize I'm still the same person. I haven't changed. So yeah, it was a long process. I always knew that I was gay since I don't know, kindergarten, pretty much. Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
awesome that you're, accepted that at a young age, and your
Yeah.
parents are understanding of that too, correct?
Yeah, my parents are understanding. It was much harder for my mom than it was for my dad. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be like the other way around, but
What was her reaction?
I think her reaction was like guilt and blame, and I think she was trying to figure out like, was it something that I did wrong, or I raised you wrong, or something that I did. So it was very much like that for her, which I think is normal when, I mean, yeah, I guess it's normal for when you come out. I think parents cope differently, and I think you have to give them time to cope and to heal and to come to an understanding too.
I'm
I,
glad
yeah, I
she.
think I think for the Hmong culture too, there's no language to describe someone who's gay or LGBT, or um, not a lot of OGs understand what that is. So I think that
Yeah,
plays a big part into that too.
there's not even a proper Hmong term. I mean, there's a Laos
Right.
term, good boy, but that's technically a Laos term.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So yeah.
I mean, maybe the Hmong term maybe is like "Sineng ya Sineng." That's
Yeah, it's weird,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
because they like there's no term, but there's a way to like describe
describe
someone
it.
who's gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm glad your mom accepted of that now, and
Yeah,
she's proud of that.
it's been a long time coming.
That's great, man. Um, one thing I was gonna say was like with your practice and such. I mean, how much does your sexuality play into how people approach you about your shaman healing?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's a really good question. I guess the people that approach me for healing are people who are like, open-minded, and people who don't, I guess, don't approach me. That's pretty much how I take it. And my partner actually is the assistant to me, so he goes everywhere I go, and he pretty much helps me with everything during rituals and everything. So people know that that's my partner, and sometimes I still get some OGs that ask, when are you getting married, or how come you don't have a wife yet, things like that.
What's your response to that?
Um, I just say, well, I don't have a wife. I don't want to get married to girls. Things like that. Yeah.
I'm assuming they come in quite surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely.
I could kind of see an older like your grandma or something in that age. It's kind of like, oh, I that maybe they do get it or don't get it at all.
I don't think they get it because sometimes they still refer to my partner as just like "the you, my friend." I guess that's a term that they use.
I'm glad that not only do you have a partner, but someone to help you doing these rituals. When you're in your trance state.
Yeah, he's been a big part of my process. My we call him Sihu, and my master is actually his aunt, and he's been like a really big part in connecting us. And then from the very beginning, when that started, he's been like pretty helpful and played a critical role into my journey.
How'd you two meet?
We met online. We met online.
Good old Tinder or something like that.
Yeah, we met online about 6 years or 6 years this year in October, 6 years ago.
I'm happy for you, man. You're happy.
Thank you. Yeah, he's Hmong too, and he does the business with me, so we got lucky with each other.
That's great. Now, do you do anything different other than shaman, and then how you heal or practice?
Um, do I do anything different? I mean, I pretty much. I mean, shamanism is like, to me, it's like such a big term, because I think people think that if you're a shaman, then you have to sit on the bench and you have to like go into a trance. But there are like so many other ways to help heal. All you have to do is just like tie a string on someone. You go do a hupli for somebody. That's a way of healing. You that's healing already too. I'm because of this whole pandemic thing. I've done, or I am doing like a online virtual kind of mental health um, submission thing for people who need mental health help. It's a free service for people, and um, not only just mental health, but people who are going through things spiritually. They can submit questions, or they can ask me to do like a reading for them, all free.
Oh, that's really awesome of you of doing that.
Yeah, it's all free. And for younger people, it's a little bit easier to like approach another young shaman versus having to approach someone who's older. Some young Hmong people can't speak Hmong that well, or they might not have, access to someone who's a shaman. So it was just a
That's
way of, helping.
that's great because you have a website and that too, which we'll talk and give a brief about that too.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
great blogs on there.
Thank
During
you.
this pandemic, how are you coping as a shaman during this time?
Yeah, it's been challenging because I mean, I would imagine not only myself, but shamans, other monk shamans were not performing rituals during this time. And some of us may be doing readings for other people, but for the most part, it's been pretty much nothing in terms of like healing and doing rituals for families. Which is another reason why I opened up the online, you know, virtual submission forums. So coping has been okay. Hmong shamans were needed during this time because there's a lot of people who are going through a lot of mental health things, and people are going through spiritual things, and people losing their loved ones and not having closure and things of that sort. And yeah, it's definitely a need right now.
That's great.
Hmm.
Do you have family and friends turning to you for guidance or support?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of family and friends turning to me for support during this time. Some of them just needing someone to talk to. Some of them having spiritual questions. I've had family and friends who've lost loved ones because of COVID-19. So it's just been a really hard process for everyone. So Shamans are needed only for times like these. So even strangers too. Yeah, strangers email me and ask me questions, and we just talk. You know.
What was your spiritual journey like?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, like I said earlier, yeah, it started when I was 5 years old. And the spiritual journey, then, you know, obviously I didn't know what was going on at all. Um, and okay, so actually when I left for college, I converted over to become a Lutheran. And that was because I just felt like there was no other way out, I guess, from the shaman sickness and from all the paranormal and supernatural things. So I converted, and for about 2 years, it was fine, and then everything just kind of came back even worse. Um, and then also kind of like going through, you know, I think shamans, we kind of feel everything like to another level. So things like depression and anxiety is definitely one of those things. I just don't think that the older shamans like to talk about that, but depression's like a really big thing for shamans, because we come in contact with people who only seek help and need help during really bad crisis times. So you never go to a shaman for fun, you know. Shamans don't really receive good news most of the time.
And what was your expectations?
Honestly, I had no expectations. Yeah, I was at my ends wits. I was just hoping that um, this was just going to help me. That's the only expectation I had, and it did. It did actually when I first met my master and we did that whole process. I honestly could say that I slept for the first time, like just 5 years ago.
Good 8 hours sleep and
Yep, good 8 hours sleep for the first time. No dreams, no nothing. I
nothing.
woke up feeling so refreshed and like I was a new person.
Do you confine to the traditional shaman practice?
Yeah, I do. So there's like different types of shaman, I guess, lineages. So my type of shaman that I have is Ning. We call it Ning Zizheng and Ning Zizong, and that's kind of the more traditional shaman.
What are your hopes as a shaman personally?
My hopes as a shaman, you know what? I just want to help people. I just want to be a part of their journey. I just want to help heal people going through hard times. And I just kind of want to help myself and help people live their life totally, you know, not leaving anything in their lives unexplored or anything like that. So,
That's great. Are you allowed to have like expectation, like such as like outside of the shaman world for those who don't practice your style of shamanism?
um, yeah, I guess I'm allowed to have expectations. You know, shamanism, thankfully, isn't like, you know, Buddhist monks, you know, where they have like a strict set of rules that they have to follow. Pretty much, if you're a shaman, you're still allowed to like have expectations and do anything else that your shaman guides allow you to do.
Has there been some confrontations maybe? Because do shamans fight too? From like another shaman to another a woman shaman, picking at you for because of your lineage practice?
Yeah, they do. And this is a good question because not a lot of people talk about these things. So thanks for that question. Yeah, shamans do fight technically. They they do, you know, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like black magic, or we call it kokongdo. And some shamans test other shamans out, or um, if there's any drama between families, that's another way of why shamans would fight. Um,
Have you run to one such scenario?
Yeah, I have, unfortunately. It was with a much older shaman, um, and he knew. This is like some deep family stuff that no one knew about, but he knew my great grandfather from a long time ago, and my great grandfather was also a shaman too. And there was just some unresolved problems, um, and it's funny and also not funny because it's like 40, 50, 60 years later, they still have some, he was unable to let some of those problems go. So
But
he,
he brought it towards you.
yeah, he brought it towards me. We believe that he did some black magic. There was a point where my altar just kind of blew up in flames. And it sounds
Whoa.
unbelievable. And if someone were to tell me this, I wouldn't believe them either. But yeah, my shaman altar blew up in flames, and my sword and my xianing, my rattle, was all burnt. Yeah.
I, I'm trying to visually see this. Like,
Yeah, I was at work actually when that happened, and for that whole day, I was getting these rashes all over my arms and my hands, my fingers, my feet, and I couldn't, I didn't understand why. It wasn't until when I got home and I looked at my altar, and the whole bottom portion of my altar was burned up in pieces.
this is just something like
hmm
sounds so unreal.
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah, it's these fights, like, it can cause people to die. It can cause other shamans to die.
I see.
Yeah.
From from what other shamans have shared in their experience, their spiritual guide control a lot of what they say and do. Have you experienced been the same?
Yes. So they always say that um, your shaman guides, they'll come and tell you what to say. And they do, but a part of that, your master also tells you specific things to say for specific rituals or for like specific um, cases as well. And I think it's a little bit different for Hmong Americans like myself because we don't really speak Hmong that much, and we're not surrounded, unlike my grandparents' generation where they were surrounded by shamanism. That's their whole life. So it's a little bit different for me. My master taught me what to say, but also my guides, they kind of just open your mouth and you just kind of know what to say too. It's a really weird experience. Yeah.
It sounds like you kind of know what to say without knowing what to say.
Yeah. There are things that I say in Hmong, and if you ask me to say that if we're speaking and you're asking me to say that, I
Yeah,
probably don't know what that means or how to say that even.
interesting.
hmm
Now let's go back about yourself. You're in your late getting into your late 20s now, and can you give the younger 10 years younger of yourself Dufong, of those who are in that spiritual awakening, and tell the younger self of you of that? Can you give us that advice?
Yeah. Don't be afraid. Honestly, that's what I would say to myself. Don't be afraid, in terms of spirituality wise, and in terms of just everything that goes on during. I mean, these are teenage years in my life and in anyone's life. You go through so much as a teen, and you think that you're alone and you're not, and you're afraid to be who you are. You're afraid of things, of what people are going to say, of what people are going to think about you. And um, if I could say anything to my younger self and to other younger shamans, just don't be afraid. Be yourself, ask for help, don't be afraid to start the journey. Destiny kind of always has a way of working things. Even if you don't start at 16, it's going to work its way and you're going to start at 26, you know.
What does it mean to you to be a Hmong man?
What does it mean to be a Hmong man? You know what, that's a good question because as a gay Hmong man, I feel like most of my life, the response from the community was, you know, you're not a man enough, or you're not a man, and you talk like a woman, you like men, so you're not a man. So I've dealt with this question for pretty much all my life. Um, and so, what does it mean to be a Hmong man? I think it just means being you. You know, you don't have to be a certain way of what the culture tells you to be. You don't have to marry a woman just to be a man. You don't have to be put into a certain role or do certain things that the community thinks that a man should. Sometimes that may be damaging to little boys like myself when I was little, not thinking that I was a man enough, not thinking that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And that kind of can be like a dangerous line for some boys, you know. So just to answer your question, just be yourself. If you have the guts to be yourself, that makes you a man enough already.
Love your answers.
Yeah.
And now, and lastly, Dupont, where could we find more of you? How can we learn more about you or follow you in the work that you do, or even like get a brief, talk with you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Facebook. You know, it's just through Fengli. Um, More importantly, I have my blog, my online blog, and I share my personal stories. I share personal case stories that I've dealt with. And you can also submit your questions if you have anything spiritually related, or I also do mental health online. It's free of service. All you have to do is go to the blog. There's a little link at the top that says contact me, and you can just type in whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling in that moment. It doesn't matter if it's 12 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. Those are usually when we have our darkest thoughts, is when we go to sleep. So if you need someone to talk to, just message me on my blog. It's TFL Hmong Shaman. If you type that into Google, it should pop up. You can also email me. I've had a lot of people email me. And my email is just tflhmongshaman@gmail.com. So
Thank you so much for your time, for coming on this morning and having a chat more about this spiritual awakening.
thank you. Thank you
I
for
can't
having me.
thank you so much. And who knows, one time I might stop by Milwaukee when everything's back to normal and hang out.
You definitely should, you know. Thank you for having me. I think it's important what you're doing. You're getting people's stories out there. You're getting other Hmong men stories out there too in a positive way. And I think that's really important for younger teen boys, you know, to see positive messages about other Hmong men. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the work that you're putting in.
Likewise.
Thank you. All
With
right, so
So with all your practices and all your experience, can you give us like a really scary story for our listeners that has happened, or you might have seen them back of your eye or sleeping? Give us your experience on
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. I'm thinking of one right now, and I've never forgotten this experience. This is when I had went back to my parents' house, and this is when I still had my small altar at their house. And my old bedroom was upstairs, and I went to sleep. It was around 11 o'clock, and I had just shut my eyes, and I wasn't even asleep yet, but I felt this kind of cold breeze. You know, when they say in movies, if there's a ghost around you, it kind of gets cold. It kind of went that way, and I felt kind of a vibration. And I knew right away that I was going to go into sleep paralysis. which I did. I snapped into sleep paralysis, and I can hear kind of this old lady's voice in my ear. And she was just kind of like grunting and moaning, and she sounded like she was in pain. Um, and obviously, my body was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I felt like I was suffocating. And I opened my eyes, and I saw this old lady Bonzong, just kind of like her face is right up on my face. And her eyes were, they weren't eyes like ours. They were like raisins, little dots on her eyes. And she didn't really have a nose either. She didn't really have a nose either. And the thing that got me really, really, really scared that I'll never forget was her mouth. Now her mouth was, it stretched from like one ear all the way to the other ear. And then her tongue, it was like the size of my arm, literally her tongue. Yeah, and it just kind of like fell out and dangled in front of me. And I couldn't scream, I couldn't do anything. I was panicking, so I was having problems breathing at that point. So I shut my eyes and I tried to bite myself so that I would wake up. I didn't wake up yet, but I at that point I had my eyes shut. I opened my eyes hoping that she would be gone, but she wasn't gone. She was there again.
Pull the sheet over your head real fast. Didn't work.
I know, yeah, she was still there. And she was just smiling, like her mouth was just open and her tongue was just out. And I closed my eyes and I tried really, really, really hard. Number one, to like control my breathing, because if I kept panicking, I felt like I was gonna suffocate. And then number two, I was trying to bite my tongue, my lips, something to wake me up. And I managed to bite my tongue. And I woke up and immediately I just booked it out the door and I ran downstairs immediately. Yeah, I was so scared. I actually was in tears too at that point, because you're just so scared of what you just saw and you're like shaking and you're hyperventilating, and it was like a fight or flight situation and I couldn't fight that, so I just had to book it.
It's, I mean, when you said that with their tongues and their mouths sticking out, I'm thinking some sort of like Japanese animation of like, you
Oh,
know,
for sure.
of
It was,
something,
yeah, it
right?
was
It's
some
like some
type
sort of
of
Japanese
like,
animation, like Death Note or something like that, where like
yeah,
that's a character you sure you wasn't watching this anime
I
and had a
know,
long.
right? Yeah, her face was like completely pale and like her skin was so messed up, and it was, yeah, it was a really scary. I'll never forget that moment.
Dude, that gives me goosebumps. Just like
Yeah.
getting this sleep paralysis. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.